What's going on, everybody? It's your observant lineman here, Uche Nwaneri. Got a big story brewing in the NFL, obviously. The situation with vaccination in the NFL has become a huge talking point today because of the new rules that the NFL's actually put out in order to incentivize its players to be vaccinated. Now, we're going to take a look at some of the social media tweets that have come out that are kind of explaining how this whole situation is unfolding. And then from there, I'll give you guys my thoughts. Full disclosure, as many of you who have seen my live streams know, I have gotten my first shot for a vaccination. So I have my own personal story about it. But, I'm going to just give you guys the info, let you guys hear what exactly is being done. And then from there, we go a little bit further and I'll give you guys my thoughts on the situation. Now we're going to start with Tom Pelissero. Tom Pelissero broke this earlier today. He put out a tweet that says the NFL just informed clubs that if a game cannot be rescheduled during the 18-week season in 2021 due to a COVID outbreak among unvaccinated players, the team with the outbreak will forfeit and be credited with the loss for playoff seeding per sources. Massive implications. Now it goes on further here, Tom Pelissero, which this is actually a really good job by him of getting this info and putting it out there in the public space. He says, here's more from today's memo, which also says the team responsible for a canceled game because of an outbreak among unvaccinated players or staff will be responsible for financial losses and subject to potential discipline from the commissioner. Wow. This is a massive step by the NFL. This is a massive step that they're taking to try and avoid having to rearrange or reschedule games because that does cost a lot of money. It says the league intends to play its entire 272-game schedule over 18 weeks. And this is key. We do not anticipate adding a 19th week to accommodate games that cannot be rescheduled within the current 18 weeks of the regular season. Play on time or don't play. Bold. Other key competitive aspects of today's memo: vaccinated individuals who test positive and are asymptomatic can return to duty after 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. Unvaccinated individuals still subject to mandatory 10-day isolated period. Every club is obligated under the Constitution and bylaws to have its team ready to play at the scheduled time and place. A failure to do so is deemed conduct detrimental. There is no right to postpone a game. That's an important thing that people, or players especially, got to understand. They're saying it now. There is no right to postpone a game. So they don't have to postpone or reschedule anything, is what they're saying. It also says here, this is the NFL's strongest step yet to incentivize vaccinations. In essence, vaccination status dictates action. If a club cannot play due to a COVID spike in vaccinated individuals, we will attempt to minimize the competitive and economic burden on both participating teams. Take that for what you will. Okay, now, here's the precise language from today's NFL memo on what would trigger a forfeit. Okay, so let's look at this. It says here, every club is obligated under Constitution and bylaws to be ready to play at scheduled time and place. Failure to do so is deemed conduct detrimental. There is no right to postpone a game. Postponements will only occur if required by government authorities, medical experts, or at the commissioner's discretion. So Roger Goodell is going to be making the decision on whether a game is going to be postponed at the end of the day. Otherwise, it would have to be the government saying, look, we're shutting down this city for 10 days or whatever, like what happened last year in 2020. Says, in light of the substantial roster flexibility in place for 2021 season, absent medical considerations or government directives, games will not be postponed or rescheduled simply to avoid roster issues caused by injury or illness affecting multiple players, even within a position group. Now, we did see something like that happen last year where the Denver Broncos' entire quarterback position became infected with COVID-19, and they had to move a receiver, a guy who played quarterback in college. I forget his name at the moment, forgive me. But he played quarterback in college. He was wide receiver in the NFL. He moved to the quarterback position to play a live NFL game that counted at quarterback because they did not have quarterbacks on the Broncos. So that would be the case yet again. If it happens to another team, they're not going to postpone that game. You're just going to have to find somebody to play quarterback. If a game is canceled, postponed because of a club cannot play due to a COVID spike among or resulting from its non-vaccinated players, staff, then the burden of the cancellation or delay will fall on the club experiencing the COVID infection. We will seek to minimize the burden on the opposing club or clubs. If a club cannot play due to a COVID spike in vaccinated individuals, we will attempt to minimize the competitive and economic burden on both participating teams. That's something that I could see being a point of contention with people, because they're going to say, well, if you are vaccinated and you are infected, you're going to give that team the benefit of the doubt because their players are vaccinated. But if they're not vaccinated, then you're not going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and they're actually going to see punitive consequences for that. Which, I mean, there's an argument in fairness there. That's not necessarily fair. Life ain't fair, I guess. Whether to reschedule a postponed game will be dependent on health and safety reasons at the recommendation of medical experts, as well as considerations of stadium availability, schedule integrity, fan convenience, and other appropriate matters. If the game cannot be rescheduled within the current 18-week schedule and is canceled due to a COVID outbreak among non-vaccinated players on one of the competing teams, the club with the outbreak will forfeit the contest and will be deemed to have played 16 games for purpose of draft waiver priority, etc. So you're going to actually see a comprehensive loss in position because you'll have one less game counted for you, one less game played from a technical standpoint as compared to the 17 games that other teams would have played. So, I mean, they're making it very hard on the team who decides they're not going to, reach their vaccination threshold. For the purposes of playoff seeding, the forfeiting team will be credited with the loss, and the other team will be credited with the win. Wow. I mean, look, this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation, entity, conglomerate, the NFL. It does not surprise me one bit that the owners of these teams and their enforcer, Roger Goodell, are going to be unwilling to actually risk their yearly profits and revenues after taking about a $4 billion drop because of the pandemic last year. They just signed a new 10-year TV contract worth $100 billion. But this is drastic. This is them putting their foot down, really, and saying we're not going to allow another derailment where we're rearranging games because star players are infected. They're not going to let that happen. So, I mean, this does not surprise me. And it doesn't appear that the NFLPA has really kind of stepped in to actually try and balance the way that they're doing this, or maybe the NFLPA is fully aware and they agreed with it. I don't know. I don't have the details on that. But this is going to really come down to the players themselves. The players are going to have to make a decision right now. I mean, they're not saying that you can't play if you're unvaccinated. That's not what's being said here. They're saying it is going to be much harder for you to play if you're not. Because if you get infected, you're done for 10 days. It doesn't matter if you're a star. It doesn't matter if you are, a first-year player. It doesn't matter if you're an undrafted free agent. You're down for 10 days. And if there are enough players on your team that are unvaccinated and are infected, that it actually makes you a much weaker team where you've lost part of your starting roster, and they have to put in backups, then that's what's going to happen. They're not going to reschedule the game, and if they do have to reschedule because there are too many, then the team that has the infections is going to have to pay for that. I mean, because they said what the rules were. You got to get vaccinated. I mean, now take your personal beliefs out of this for a moment. If your job has a set of rules that they say, hey, look, we got these rules now. We need you to do this. Your Players Association has agreed to it. It's not breaking any of the constitution or bylaws of our agreement. If you don't like the rule, are you going to still work there? That's your livelihood. So now they're making these players choose between the chance that you may cost your entire team their money, that's huge. That's huge. That's huge. You work too damn hard to be giving back money. You can take the risk if you're not willing to be vaccinated. You can take that risk. They're not saying you can't do that. They're just saying if something happens, you're on your own. Now, here's another part here. It says, we know the vaccines are safe and effective and are the best step anyone can take to be safe from the coronavirus. The vaccines continue to provide strong immunity against variants of the coronavirus, including the Delta variant. Even with recent increases, new cases remain far below the peak levels of earlier this year. Both the CDC and major hospital systems throughout the country have reported that 97% or more of the new cases and 97% or more of the new cases and virtually all hospitalizations are seen in unvaccinated individuals. While there have been breakthrough infections, cases where a vaccinated individual has been infected, those cases tend to be mild and people recover from the infection relatively quickly. Now, there is obviously star players in the NFL who are very upset with how this is playing out. One in particular is DeAndre Hopkins, the wide receiver from the Arizona Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins came out on his Twitter and actually said, "Never thought I would say this, but being put in a position to hurt my team because I don't want to partake in the vaccine is making me question my future in the NFL." That's a very very bold statement that's gotten a lot of attention. Very bold statement that's gotten a lot of attention. People are chiming in with their thoughts, with their opinions on this matter. And honestly, I can understand players, people, individuals who have their hesitancies about, getting the vaccine. I can understand the hesitancy. Look at the flu shot. People get the flu shot year in and year out. I have never in my life had a flu shot. I don't think I'll ever get a flu shot because I've never had the flu. I've never had the flu. I've never been sick for longer in my adult life, and even as far back as I can remember to being a little kid. I think I had like the regular things like chicken pox and, those things when I was little. I've had like a stomach virus before from, eating like way too much candy in one day and thrown up and, just those, kind of get sick for the moment type things. But I've never been sick or I've never been like knocked out with some kind of sickness for any like period longer than like 24 hours. I can get where people are like, you know what, I'm healthy. I feel good. I don't want to get the vaccine. That's on you. That's your choice to make. But in this situation here, we're dealing with a private business, 32 different clubs who have decided that this is the rule they're going to put in place so that they can get through the season in a relatively streamlined fashion. If I was a player on a team last year where these games got shuffled around in multiple weeks, I mean, it's rough. It's really hard to get through mentally. It's a huge distraction. It's a huge dent in your mental fortitude. So, if that happens multiple times for one team throughout the course of a season, I mean, if your team was doing good, by the end of that, they're going to turn into a wreck. It's going to hurt teams' abilities to stay consistent because they have to move their games around. I don't think anybody wants that. We all just want a streamlined, straightforward NFL season. People want to get back to normalcy. Well, shit. For the NFL, this is their path to getting there. So it's up to you. You get to decide whether it's going to be, because my feelings is I don't want to take the vaccine, or my feeling is I don't want to work in the NFL anymore. That's a possibility. So you got to think about that. But what do you guys think? Leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think about this new rule from the NFL that they're enacting to boost and incentivize players into getting vaccinated. Make sure you hit the like button if you like this video and subscribe to the Observant Lineman Uche Nwaneri. I'd appreciate that very much. But again, big news out of the NFL. Let me know what you guys think. I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.